In a moment of intensified hostility and anger and misunderstanding and aggression in our culture, it's perfectly legitimate to ask what the value of unity could even be at this point. We're very often told that we must come to the table and put differences aside and compromise or whatever. But all of those admonitions have this built in assumption that differences ultimately aren't that important. So I wanted to end the series with a recent article by Sarah Pessin, a philosopher and Levinas scholar at the University of Denver. Pessin is, I think, a truly brilliant thinker, but also a deeply intuitive person when it comes to the proper ways to apply so many of the themes that we've explored. First, I want to return to the way that she foregrounds Levinas in her article, where Dr. Pessin reminds us, quote, a desire to befriend the neighbor is often linked to a desire to understand the neighbor or the other. But as Levinas emphasizes in his critique of same-making as a totalizing allergy to difference, this quest to know my neighbor conceals a consumptive desire to make my neighbor into myself, to assure myself that the other is just like me, or at least enough like me to make me comfortable. End of quote. So her article enumerates a number of problems with the way that we typically talk about loving our neighbors. First, we might say that we wish our neighbors well so long as they turn from enemies to friends. That is to say, turn into a clone of ourselves or our way of thinking. Another problem is that the demand to be friends might require me to deny my embodied revulsion at the other. When we are told to get along, for example, it's very often the case that one side, the side being threatened, is actually being asked to give up far, far more than the other side. And it isn't clear why that's supposed to be better than maintaining the demand not to be hurt in the first place. And more problematically, love of neighbor usually means like of neighbor. For example, maintaining minimum moral standards, such as saying that those of this or that ethnicity should not be thrown into camps. Well, that's often taken as a sign that I'm causing trouble if I voice that opinion, for I haven't sufficiently, ignored my opponent's sincerely held belief that some people ought to be thrown into the camps. In other words, I don't have to care for my fellow human alone. I'm expected to actually like him, to excuse the objectionable and possibly even life threatening positions he freely chose to adopt. So, in the midst of what Dr. Passon calls America's love sickness problems, these traps within the demand to love our neighbor, our problematic neighbor, our objectionable neighbor, and even our openly hostile neighbor, are traps which we can't simply paper over. We're going to have to seriously consider what it means to be ethical amidst a constant stream of demands of unity and love. And that's the lesson that I think that she's getting at here. The wish for love can be a type of trap.